Hello and welcome back once again to the Wrestling Rant. Monday Night Raw, December 2nd, 2013 from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Show starts out with CM Punk's music. He comes out, and as he's coming out, they recap last week, the Shield attacking Punk. Punk gets in the ring and he talks about the Authority. They were probably the ones that ordered the Shield to attack him. And then Stephanie comes out and talks and basically says that the Authority didn't order it. Whatever the fuck. She introduces Kane, the director... what the fuck was it? Director of Operations. Right. She introduces Kane, and Kane comes out, and he says that as the Director of Operations, he's in charge of making sure things run smoothly, and he says that he had an investigation as to why the Shield attacked Punk last week. And the conclusion he came to is that the Shield acted on their own, and Stephanie and Triple H, the Authority, did not order it or anything, whatever the fuck. Whatever the fuck. Punk talks, and him and Kane go back and forth, and Punk basically challenges Kane to a fight or a match or whatever the hell. And even though Kane goes to go towards the ring, Stephanie kind of holds him back. And then the Shield music hits. And the three of them come out. And as they're coming out, because it takes so friggin' long, Punk jumps out of the ring and grabs a chair from ringside and gets back in the ring. And once the Shield finally get to ringside, Stephanie tells them to stop. And she says, I won't have what happened last week happen again this week. And then she basically leaves after that. And Kane announces that Punk is going to take on all three members of the Shield in a 3-on-1 handicap match at the TLC pay-per-view. Okay. End of that segment. Commentators say that up next, we're going to have Ziggler versus Sandow one more time. This time, it's a number one contenders match for the Intercontinental title. They cut to commercial. When we come back, Big E Langston, the Intercontinental Champion, is on commentary, and he's there for the match. Yeah, they say that the Slammies, the stupid Slammy show, is going to be next week. Whoop-de-doo. We come back from the commercial, and Sandow is in the ring talking. Saying, I'm going to win, you're welcome, whatever. And then Ziggler's music hits, and he comes out, and we get the match. And of course, it turns out to be decent, because these two are great. Early on, Dolph goes for the zigzag again while Sandow is on the ropes, and of course it gets blocked. Sandow goes for the Morgasm flipping neck breaker. Ziggler gets out of the way of it, and then runs over and grabs Sandow as he gets up and plants him with the Fameasser. Of course, only got a 2 count. Sandow came back, hit the You're Welcome, and got the win. So Sandow is now the number one contender for the Intercontinental Championship. I'm guessing that match is going to happen at the pay-per-view. After that, we get a rundown of Cena and Orton. The titles they've held, accolades, things like that. And they say that we're going to have the contract signing for the big TLC match for both titles later tonight. And there's a commercial break. And one thing I should notice is that all throughout the night, not only are they hyping this contract signing, but the commentators keep repeating the fact that Stephanie and Triple H have guaranteed that one man is going to walk out with both titles. So apparently we can just forget about the finish that a lot of people predicted, where they were just going to switch the belts, and Randy would end up with the world title and Cena would end up with the WWE title. Apparently that's out the window now. They are guaranteeing that one guy is going to leave with both belts. And not only that, but there's something coming up later regarding that. We'll get to that, though. After the commercial break, some of the divas are in the ring. And AJ is coming out. Her music's still playing. She's just skipping around the ring. And we get a recap of last week, the Divas match, which was garbage, of course. And, of course, we get another garbage Divas match. It's Natalya and the Bellas versus Summer Rae, Tamina, and AJ. Of course, it was shit. The whole match, AJ's just skipping around the ring, changing directions every now and then, just going around and around and around. It's mostly Tamina and Summer trying to, wrestle the match. Let's see. One of the Bellas, there was a nasty botched drop kick. And then Brie did her goofy knee on the ropes that I mentioned before. She gets the girl leaned up against the ropes, sitting down, and then she comes running and just knees her on the face against the ropes, whatever. There was a botched sunset flip. Right. And Summer had gotten beaten up, and then she's crawling towards her corner. Tamina had been knocked out, or knocked down, or whatever the fuck. Summer's crawling towards the corner, and she's like, AJ, tag me! And AJ's halfway across the ring. She sees it, and she's like, whatever. She skips on over, gets up on the apron, lets Summer tag her in. AJ finally gets into the match. I can't remember exactly what happened, but there was some shenanigans, whatever the fuck. I think Natalya, or maybe it was one of the Bellas. Basically, no, it was Natalya. Natalya did like a small package on AJ and pinned her. So Natalya got the win for her team. And of course, Natalya and the Bellas, they get out of the ring and they're backing up the ramp. And AJ's kind of sitting there in the ring, and then she just kind of shrugs. She gets up, she starts skipping around again. She don't give a fuck at this point. She goes over and grabs the Divas title, and she skips away and doesn't even care. And why should she care? None of the other fucking Divas seem to care. Not only that, but it's a throwaway match on Raw with no stipulations, nothing's on the line. It doesn't matter. None of the matches on Raw or SmackDown really matter unless there's some sort of a stipulation. The one with Sandow and Ziggler was the only one that really mattered, because it actually was a number one contender match. It's one of the things I really hate about Raw and SmackDown and all of the WWE for the most part. The matches don't really matter unless they're actually for a title or for the number one contendership to a title. Or unless there's maybe a stipulation where if you win, you get to pick the stipulation for your title match or your grudge match or whatever the fuck it is for the pay-per-view. Those are the only ones that actually matter. All the other matches are basically pointless, other to drive along storylines. And, there's other ways you can drive along storylines. Anyways, tangent aside. Alright, this is the point where, after Daniel Bryan was basically kidnapped by the Wyatts last week, all of a sudden the commentators announced that Daniel Bryan was found in an abandoned parking lot during the week, I guess, or whatever the fuck, over the weekend, and All of a sudden, Bryan has a match against Eric Rowan later on. And they cut to commercial. So, apparently, them kidnapping Bryan was pointless. They didn't turn him heel or turn him into a monster. Whatever. When they come back from the commercial break, this is where things get really weird really quick. When they come back, Justin Roberts, the ring announcer, announces, and now, ladies and gentlemen, here is Bad News. And I'm thinking, wait, Bad News Brown is back? No. Bad News Barrett. Wade Barrett apparently has a new gimmick. He's standing at a podium next to the commentators. He's wearing a suit, and he says, "I've got good news and I've got bad news." And this is basically his gimmick. Basically, all he does is he insults the hometown Oklahoma crowd for cheap heat, because that's about the only way he can get any fucking heat. And that's pretty much it. The good news is Monday Night Raw is live tonight, but the bad news is we're in this shithole city or some shit. I don't remember. That's basically the gist of it. He insults the hometown crowd, and that's basically it. Again, cheap heat, really lame, and why does Barrett still have a job? He's boring, and he's not a very good wrestler. Anyways, we cut backstage. There's Randy Orton. And then the camera kind of looks over, and there's Brad Maddox, the Raw general manager. And what Randy basically says is, he's telling Maddox, "I want you to go tell Triple H and Stephanie that I want to be recognized as the biggest star ever. I'm bigger than the WWE. I'm bigger than Hogan and Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin, all these other big stars from the past." And I'm thinking, Randy, shut up. You are not. You never will be. But anyways, that dumb shit goes away. And here's the thing I was talking about earlier. Since they're guaranteeing that only one guy is going to walk out with both titles at TLC, they're doing another vote on the stupid WWE app. And this vote is going to be for the official name of the title once they're both unified. And the three choices are the WWE Unified Champion, the Undisputed WWE Champion, or the Undisputed World Champion. Those are your three choices. And I'm thinking, well, Unified sucks. Why don't we just combine the other two and call it the Undisputed WWE World Heavyweight Championship? But whatever. The voting begins now. Get out your stupid phones and use the app that doesn't even fucking work. Anyways, back in the arena, Bryan's music hits, and out he comes. As if nothing never happened. He's got his yes shirt on. He's yes, all the way out to the ring. He's got his little towel that he's been waving around lately. I don't know if I've mentioned that before. But he comes out as if nothing ever happened to him. Never got abducted, nothing. He's acting completely normal. And then there's a commercial break. And when they come back from the commercial, we get the stupid cutaway thing and the Wyatt's, the blackout. And really quickly, the lights come back, and Harper and Rowan are both already in the ring. So, they must have been hiding under the ring. But anyways, after that, we get a recap of last week, them abducting Bryan from Raw. And then SmackDown, the promo that Wyatt had cut. And I know for SmackDown I only kind of went over it briefly, but what Wyatt actually said was, Bryan is going to enter the lion's den as a man and emerge a monster. So, something tells me that what they wanted to do to him wasn't... They weren't going to brainwash him, but they're going to just try to put him through a gauntlet or something. I don't know. But whatever. Bryan and Rowan are in the ring, and it's time for the match. And despite Bryan being in this match, it still turned out to be kind of meh. Because of Rowan, I guess, because he's a boring hoss. One of the first things I notice is... Let's see, Rowan was on the outside of the ring, and I think Bryan did basically a slingshot crossbody out of the ring, and what was supposed to happen was Rowan was just supposed to catch him and proceed on to his next move, which I'll get to. But what happened was, as Rowan caught Bryan, he almost lost his balance and almost dropped him. Because, again, he's a fucking piece of shit hoss. But anyways, he doesn't drop him, fortunately. But he did kind of look like he got knocked off balance for a second. But he catches him, and then just kind of swings and slams him into the barricade. Shortly after that, they cut to a commercial. Rowan's dominating for a while. Bryan tries to do his comeback, but it gets stopped. Later on, Rowan goes for his goofy froggy splash, but Bryan gets out of the way of it. And after that, Bryan throws Rowan out of the ring, and he runs to the opposite side and suicide dives onto Harper, who's been on the outside of the ring the whole time. Bryan gets back in the ring and runs and suicide dives on top of Rowan on the other side of the ring. But anyways, they get it back in the ring, and the finish of it is Bryan went up to the top rope, and Rowan catches him and goes to, like, do the thing where they normally do out of the corner, where they grab them and throw them and slam them on their back. But instead of that, he grabs them and lifts them up like a gorilla press. And he's holding him, but Bryan slips down the back and gets a schoolboy roll-up and pins Rowan. So that's the end of the match. Bryan wins. And then all of a sudden, once again, the frickin' lights cut out. And we look up at the Titantron, and there's Wyatt cutting a promo. And the basic gist, he starts off by telling Harper and Rowan to stand down. And he says, they're not going to hurt you unless I tell them to. I mean, obviously, he's the leader of this cult. They have to listen to him. But he basically says to Bryan, I underestimated you, He starts trying to reason with Bryan or something, like, the WWE machine thinks you're just a circus clown, but if you join with me, we can take down the machine, Again, please, do not try to ruin Daniel Bryan by having him join the Wyatts. The only good end to this feud should be Bryan overcoming the Wyatts and becoming stronger because of it, stronger to the point where he can take down the Authority and win back the title. But then again, by the time that happens, Cena will be champion. So, probably not. But anyways, after Wyatt's promo, we do the cutaway gag again, and it goes to a commercial. When we come back from the commercial, there's Daniel Bryan backstage coming through one of the hallways, and he bumps into Kane. And since the two of them used to be partners, Kane's talking, and he's like, congratulations on winning your match. And even though we used to be partners, I see you got a new friend with Punk. And I think it's only fitting that you get the same treatment that Punk got. And since Punk's going against the Shield, Kane announces that Bryan is going to take on the Wyatts in a 3-on-1 handicap match at the TLC pay-per-view. Great. After that, we cut back to the arena, and R-Truth's music starts playing, and he comes out with Xavier Woods. And while they're coming out, we get a recap of last week when Woods used Brodus' theme music and came out with the Funkadactyls, and then SmackDown, where Brodus wasn't happy about it. And then, tons of funk come out. We get the music and the Funkadactyl twits, and no reaction from the crowd. None. Crowd did not give a fuck about either one of these asses. Whatever. Tag team match, of course. Again, another meh match. It was really weak and boring. Xavier was able to hit the honor roll on Brodus, but I think he only got a 1 count or something. I think Brodus went for... Oh, right. He went for a big splash off of the second rope, and he missed. And as he was getting up, I think Xavier rolled him up for the win. So, Truth and Woods win. And Brodus is pissed. He's, furious, flipping out. He's going to run after R-Truth and Woods, and Tensai is, holding him back. He's like, just let it go, man. And Brodus shoves him, and they're kind of teasing tension between those two. Like, who cares if they broke up? They're a joke of a tag team anyways. Anyways, they use this opportunity to say that we got us a 6-man tag match coming up later. Cody Rhodes and Goldust and The Big Show versus The Shield. That's going to be a little later on, and they cut to a commercial break. And then things get funny. Coming back from the commercial break, Sin Cara's music hits. And he comes out. And if you'll remember, the last time we saw Sin Cara, he injured his finger in a match with Del Rio. And they had to basically call off the match. And Del Rio was pissed about it and whatever the fuck. But as Sin Cara is coming out, I notice he's kind of moving a little differently. And I notice he's got a big freaking tattoo, all of a sudden, on his right shoulder. And it looks like it comes up from his arm all the way onto the shoulder and kind of extends a little bit down onto his chest a little bit. And I'm like, since when does Sin Cara have a tattoo? Because he doesn't. And I'm also thinking, what is he going to do? Job to Del Rio again? Del Rio's music hits. And out he comes. And on his way out, he talks and basically says, I'm going to send your ass back to Mexico, get immigration on you, some shit like that, whatever the fuck. We start the match, and the blue and yellow Sin Cara lights return for this match. Not like that's really anything special. But this match turns out to be decent, and there's very little botching in it, which is another pretty dead giveaway that this is not the real Sin Cara. There was a minor botch. Early on in the match, Del Rio got thrown to the outside, and Sin Cara goes to the apron, and he does an Acai moonsault, but he overshot it and basically missed Del Rio. But of course, Del Rio still went down anyways, but whatever the fuck. Anyways, they wrestled around and around and around, and finally what ended up happening was... what happened? Del Rio got knocked down with something. He was in the middle of the ring, and Sin Cara goes up to the top rope and does the Swanton Bomb. Sin Cara covers Del Rio. 1, 2, 3. Del Rio just fucking lost to Sin Cara, and I start laughing my ass off. And again, this is another dead giveaway to the fact that this is not the real Sin Cara, because Sin Cara never used the Swanton Bomb, but guess who did? The fake Sin Cara from a while back, and that was Hunico. And you might remember I've mentioned Hunico a couple of times here lately. So it looks like this is Hunico in the Sin Cara getup. And it might be that they finally realized that the real guy behind Sin Cara is just a total failure, and they decided to cut their losses. We'll keep the character, and we'll just give it to somebody else who doesn't botch anywhere near as much. And that's Hunico. Now, before I started the show, Hunico and Sin Cara wound up feuding over the Sin Cara title because it was Sin Cara Blue and Sin Cara Black, and the black one was Hunico. And Hunico lost the feud and got demasked. Whatever. But Hunico is obviously a better wrestler, and he's much more reliable. He's not as injury prone, because the real Sin Cara has been injured 3 or 4 times in his short career in the WWE already. And Hunico's only been injured like once. But yeah, so it's obvious that Sin Cara, the real Sin Cara, has been replaced with Hunico, and thank God, because the real guy behind Sin Cara was just not working out. But anyways, moving on. Again, another tangent, sorry about that. Moving on. We get another recap, and this time it's a quite freaking old recap from 2007. When an old feud between Orton and Cena. But they show the clip of Orton punting Cena's dad in the head. This is from 2007 when they were feuding. Orton ran over and grabbed Cena's dad out of the crowd, threw him to the ground, and then backed up and punted him in the fucking head. And they're just kind of going over these old rivalries between Cena and Orton. Like we need to relive that horse shit. And they're using that to build up to the contract signing that's later tonight. And of course they hype that up. And they cut to another commercial. And when we come back, there's Renee Young backstage, and she says her guest at this time is John Cena. And she says, John, we've got this title match where somebody's gonna walk out as both champions. And what does that mean to you? I forget exactly what Cena says, but it's basically the gist of it. The gist of it is, it means everything to him. Whatever. We cut to another backstage area where the Shield are cutting their own little promo. And they basically all say that, with the handicap match that Punk has against them, Punk doesn't stand a chance. And they say that, you know what, Punk couldn't even last 5 minutes in the ring with any one of us. Whatever, they talk about Punk in the handicap match, yada yada. Cutting back out to the arena, Cody and Goldust come out. And then the Big Show comes out, and then we cut to a commercial break. And when we come back, the Shield is already on the way to the ring. They get in the ring, and while they're coming out, we recap again last week, the Shield attacking Punk. And then we get this 6-man tag match, and this probably was it was the best match of the night. And it actually helped because it was a pretty damn good match. It got plenty of time. Good 10 or 15 minutes or more, I'm not even sure. I'll just go through it. Early on, the Big Show started for his team, and he dominated all 3 members of the Shield one at a time. Like, each one was like, oh fuck, I'm getting beat up, to tag into the other one. The other one gets beat up by Big Show, and then he tags out to the other guy, and then he beat all 3 of them. And then finally Show tags out, which was probably the worst idea. But they show Punk watching backstage. And there's a commercial break. And when we come back, Cody had been getting his ass kicked by the Shield throughout the commercial. And Cody tried to come back by going for a disaster kick. But as he bounces back, Reigns, who was the legal man at the time, just punches Cody right in the chest and floors him, so that stopped that comeback. Whatever the fuck, there was some more stuff. Show got tagged in, and Show went to hit the ropes, but Ambrose pulls the ropes down, and Show falls all the way to the outside of the ring. And again, they show that Punk is watching backstage. And Reigns was beating down Big Show, but Reigns went for that big, like, diving clothesline that he does. He hits the ropes and he jumps up and diving clothesline, and he'd already hit it once on Big Show. But he goes for it again, and Big Show catches him by the neck, picks him up, and choke slams him. And then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. Bodies are going all over the place on the outside of the ring. Big Show gets speared on the outside of the ring. And then I think Reigns got taken out somehow by Cody, but Cody hurt himself in the process. I don't know how. Back in the ring, Goldust superplexes Ambrose. And Rollins was laying in the ring, and everybody's like, oh shit, they're going to land on Rollins. But Rollins keeps a rolling. He rolls the fuck out of the way. And so Goldust superplexes Ambrose, but Rollins is the legal man, and as Goldust and Ambrose come down, Rollins gets out of the way, and then he stacks up Goldust. He basically, like, you know, it's like not really a roll-up, but he stacks him up, and he holds him down, and he gets the 3 count. So the Shield wins, and it was a good finish. Exciting action. It went back and forth. Great classic tag team stuff. It was good. They say that up next, Punk is going to address the Shield. And then they get another recap, an old recap between Cena and Orton from Breaking Point of 2009, the I Quit match. And of course, Orton quit like a bitch back then, too, which basically just shows what's going to happen anyways. They hype up the contract signing, of course, and they cut to commercial. When they come back, Renee is backstage again, this time with Punk. And she basically asks Punk, how do you feel about this match with the Shield? And Punk is overly happy. He's, oh, I'm so happy, I feel pretty. And he fucking starts singing, I feel pretty. It's fucking hell. And then he goes all stone-faced. He's saying, that's not really how I feel. He basically says, you know what, I'm going down. But the question is, how many members of the Shield am I going to take down with me? So, right. Cutting back out to the arena again, we get another segment with Bad News Barrett. I'm cringing so hard just saying that. But he talks about Thanksgiving and how the bad news is you all are fat and I don't know. It was terrible. It doesn't matter. It's cheap heat. This is not going to get Barrett over. And I also forgot to mention the one thing about these promos. When he's finally done talking, he just kind of steps away from the microphone on the podium and he puts his hands behind his back. And then up on the screen, this goofy logo, this big red rectangle that says hashtag Bad News Barrett. It's like the stamp or whatever. So stupid. Anyways, they cut backstage to a random hallway where they show The Miz and Kofi shaking hands. This is weird because of, what's been happening between them the last couple of weeks. Apparently, they're cool now. Whatever. But I guess they're cool, they shake hands, and it looks like they're coming out to the ring. So apparently they're going to team up again. And we'll get to that. They talk about the app vote for the title name again, and they cut to commercial break. And when we come back, Ryback's music is playing, and him and Curtis Axel are standing in the ring. Then Kofi's music hits, and out he comes. And then the Miz's music hits, and out he comes. Obviously, tag team match. Ryback and Axel versus Kofi and Miz. Again, it was meh. Ryback ends up getting the win after hitting the shell shock on Kofi. And when he wins, there's no reaction from the crowd. Miz had been knocked out of the ring or something, and as Ryback and Axel are leaving, Miz finally gets back in the ring, and he kind of helps up Kofi, and I'm thinking, okay, is this where he's going to turn on him again and give him the skull-crushing finale? No. He helps him up, and then he just slaps him in the face again. And then Miz leaves. So I just don't get this. It's just dopey as hell. But they cut backstage to another merchandise selling segment. This time it's Los Matadores and El Torito. And El Torito goes off the fucking walls, yelling and screaming in Spanish. I couldn't understand a fucking word he said. And somehow the Matadors were speaking English, even though I don't think they've spoken English up to this point. But whatever. You can get 25% off using coupon code OLE. Whatever the fuck. We get another recap from last week. The ending, where Cena had won the match for his team, but Del Rio tried to attack him, got the attitude adjustment for his trouble, and then Orton came in and clobbered Cena with the WWE title belt. And of course they hype up the contract signing, and they cut to another commercial. When we come back from the commercial, Fandango is in the ring dancing with Summer. And then Mark Henry's music hits. And out he comes. Yeah, this is a squash match, basically. Fandango versus Henry. They wrestle around a bit, whatever the fuck. It really didn't look all that great, but Henry gives Fandango the world's strongest slam and gets the win. We get another recap, this time from SmackDown last week, and it's of Titus puking in JBL's hat and putting it on Cole's head and then puking on Zeb Coulter. And they felt the footage was so nasty they had to censor out Titus puking. Whatever. They cut to a commercial, and when we come back, the primetime players are in the ring. And it's at this time where they announce that Punk is going to be going against one of the members of The Shield on SmackDown this Friday. But we don't know which one. The Real Americans come out and Coulter talks and he cuts his usual stupid shit. He bitches at Titus for puking on him and all this other crap, and we the people, who cares? Tag team match. Actually ends up being decent. What ends up happening is Cesaro is in the ring with Titus. And Cesaro gets Titus down and goes to go for the big giant swing again. And both Swagger and Coulter are like, no, don't do it. We don't want him to puke all over the place again. Cesaro doesn't give a fuck. He swings him around anyways. but only a few times. He finally stops and he goes to argue with Coulter and Swagger and whatever the fuck. Titus is looking like he's going to get sick and puke again. He staggers around the ring. Finally, he stumbles into the corner and tags in Darren Young. And Darren comes in like a house of fire. He's cleaning house, beating on Swagger, beating on Cesaro. And then he makes his big mistake where he goes up to, I think, the top rope, and he dives out, I think, to go for a crossbody or something. Cesaro catches him with basically the Swiss Death. Darren comes diving in, and Cesaro just uppercuts the fuck out of him, and he pins him. So the Real Americans win. And despite all the teasing of Titus getting sick, he doesn't throw up again, thank God. There's another teasing of the app vote for the title name, whatever, and then they cut backstage to show Triple H and Stephanie coming through the backstage area. It looks like they're coming out. It's time for the contract signing. And of course they hype up the contract signing and they cut to a commercial. When they come back, the King, Jerry Lawler, is in the ring, of course, because he always does all the app vote results. They announce the app vote results, and by a somewhat slim margin, Unified Champion is for some reason the winner. I don't know why, because it's obviously the worst name out of the three. But apparently that's going to be the name of the champion. Although I hope not. King of Kings hits, and Triple H and Stephanie come out to hardly any reaction, by the way. And again, at this point, the commentators reiterate that they have guaranteed there's only going to be one champion after TLC. But Triple H talks, and Stephanie talks, and introduces Randy, and Randy comes out, and then Stephanie introduces Cena, and Cena comes out, again, to hardly any reaction. I don't think Randy got any reaction, mostly, either. Whatever. There's talking. Triple H goes over the lineages of both the WWE title and the World Heavyweight title. And then Stephanie basically says, if we can just get you guys to go ahead and sign, it'll be all hunky-dory. And so Randy signs the contract, and then Cena signs the contract. And then Stephanie says, alright, if you guys want to go ahead and talk or say something, Randy will go ahead and start with you. So Randy talks and says that he's better than all of the former champions that Triple H mentioned in the lineages. And him and Cena go back and forth. And then Cena talks, and it's his usual bullshit. But he finally gets to the point, we've talked, we've said our piece. So now I'm going to give you a choice, Randy. You can either leave, or you can make a move. Obviously, all fucking contract signings have to have a fight. Yeah, a fight breaks out. They're fighting around. Cena hits Randy with a ladder. Twice, I think. They spill out to the outside. Randy clears off the announcer's table and, whatever. And then Cena hits Randy with the ladder again. And then he grabs a chair and he starts whacking Randy with it. And he grabs a microphone and smacks Randy in the head with it. And then I think Randy gets his head smacked into the ringside stairs. They finally roll back into the ring. Randy gets thrown in first, and he grabs the ladder that's in the ring. And as Cena's getting in, the ladder gets shoved into Cena's face. Randy grabs a chair and whacks Cena with it a couple of times. Then he starts rearranging stuff. He sets up a table, sets it up flat, because there have been a couple of them propped up in the corners. But anyway, Cena all of a sudden fights back, puts Orton through one of the tables in the corner, and then picks Randy up and gives him the attitude adjustment through the table that Randy had set up. And then Cena grabs both belts and holds them up. And then they cut over to the stage where Triple H and Stephanie are. They bailed when things were looking like it was time for a fight. But Trips and Stephanie are looking on from the stage, and that's pretty much the end of the show. Yeah. So this feud is just as boring as ever. As always, we'll go ahead and go over shit. Damien Sandow beats Dolph Ziggler in a decent match to become #1 contender for the Intercontinental title. We get another train wreck of a Divas match. Natalya and the Bellas beat Summer, Tamina, and AJ. Who gives a fuck? Daniel Bryan is able to get a roll-up victory on Eric Rowan in a fairly boring match. R-Truth and Xavier Woods also get a cheap roll-up win on Tons of Funk. Again, meh. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about Tons of Funk. You know, Truth and Woods are kind of starting to get over, but, you know, whatever. Sin Hunico Kara defeats Alberto Del Rio. It was a decent match, and all I can say is fucking lol. Del Rio loses to his usual jobber. The only thing I can think of that's going to be next is Del Rio's going to lose to Zack Ryder, or somebody else who's just a complete jobber. I think they finally realized that Del Rio is really not that good either, and they're just finally burying him. Which they should have done a long damn time ago. After that, the Shields gets another roll-up victory on Cody and Goldust in the Big Show, after the best match on the frickin' show tonight. Then after that, Ryback and Curtis Axel get a pinfall victory over Kofi and The Miz. And then Mark Henry squashes Fandango. And then the Real Americans get a pretty definitive victory over the Primetime Players. Oh yeah, they also happened to mention, I think, that there's going to be a match between Goldust and, was it Cesaro, I think, on Main Event this week? Which doesn't matter because I'm not going to fucking watch it. And that was your main event match for the night. The Real Americans and the Primetime Players, because after that was all the shit with the contract signing. Yeah. So yeah, overall the show was, I guess, a little bit better than it has been the past couple of weeks. But that's not really saying much considering the last couple of weeks sucked. But it was a little bit better, I guess. Still fairly boring, though, all in all. But yes, that was Monday Night Raw from December 2nd, 2013 in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. That's going to wrap it up for the Wrestling Rant this time. Please join us next time, which will probably be in a couple of days for the SmackDown spoilers. Join us then, please, and we will see you next time. Good night.